Let me shut the slider.
It's no problem. Sure.
There.
Great.
One less X factor.
Okay. Hi, Rick.
Hi.
What's your name?
My name is Rick Watrous. I live in Concord and I teach at NHTI.
And how long have you been teaching at NHTI?
I've been teaching at NHTI off and on for about 20 years now. I started there as media specialist back in the 80s. And in the 90s, I decided I wanted to become a teacher. So I went to UNH and got a master's degree in writing and began to pursue a teaching career as an English professor.
What's your educational background?
I have a master's.
Sorry, just
Oh,
no problem.
my educational background is a. Let me stop this.
Sure, no problem. Start again.
My educational background is a bachelor's degree in communications from Temple University and a master's degree in English writing from UNH.
How long have you taught at CCSNH?
I've taught at NHTI since before there was a community college system, or at least called by that name. I've been teaching at NHTI for about 20 years now. I teach on and off because I love teaching, but after a while, as an adjunct professor, I feel I'm being taken advantage of by the administration, and then I find other work for a while.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
The other work, or the
being taken advantage of.
Okay.
What does that mean?
I feel as an adjunct professor, the administration doesn't really appreciate me or my fellow adjuncts in that typically we're shown our contract just a few days before the semester begins, or even after the semester begins, we'll finally get a contract offer. So we have a hard time planning our lives. We don't know if we're going to be teaching from one semester to another. The pay has remained the same for many years, and I can teach a full-time load of courses and make about 20 grand a year without benefits. And it essentially is a poverty level way to live.
How do you survive on $20,000 a year?
I'm married to a wonderful woman with a great job who has health benefits for the whole family. And I feel very fortunate to have that. So, I can live a middle-class living. I know many of my fellow adjuncts don't have that type of support from a spouse with a good job and good benefits, and they're living on the edge. They're living with food stamps and from month to month, and it's difficult, very difficult.
So it seems like you haven't had to make too many sacrifices because you've been afforded this lifestyle, but for your colleagues and yourself, I imagine you still have had to make sacrifices. And what kind of sacrifices have you had to make just to work? It seems like at that poverty level, you're giving way more back to the college than you're receiving.
Right. Well, personally, the biggest sacrifice I made for teaching was to give up my full-time state job as media specialist at New Hampshire Technical Institute to pursue a teaching career there. And in retrospect, that was one of the biggest mistakes ever made, because I had no idea how on the edge college professors live. Unless you're tenured, and there's very few tenured teachers in the system, you're making a poverty level subsistence. And it's ironic to finish teaching a class at the college level and walk down the hall and see the janitor and think, oh, he's probably making a better living than I am as a college professor.
Who's responsible?
Here comes
No problem.
my lovely wife. Hi, we're
in the front hall.
we're in the middle of a interview.
Oh,
Hi.
sorry.
No, that's okay.
We can edit.
Do you actually? If she
This
likes,
is
she can come in
yeah.
and talk with us.
Debbie.
Yeah.
This is Ian from the SEA,
Hi, Ian.
and this is Debbie.
Hi,
Got my shoes. Hold on a second.
Sure.
Nice to meet you. Got our veggies from the CSA. I actually will not go do anything on camera because I work for a nonprofit that's
Okay.
nonpartisan, and so
No problem.
just wouldn't work.
Okay.
But he'll speak.
No danger of that.
Okay. Thank you for considering. So we were at who is responsible.
Is that bag now in the shot?
It's you know it's
Yeah,
fine.
continuity.
It's really okay.
All right,
In fact, if Debbie should do whatever she needs to do.
all right.
It gives you that sense of personalization. It gives you the sense that this is,
Life goes on.
but at the same time, it's difficult. So visually, I really hope we can connect it.
Okay.
Okay. So who's responsible for the state of public education, and who's responsible for the treatment of adjuncts?
Well, as far as who's responsible for the treatment of adjuncts, ultimately it used to be simpler because NHTI and the community college system used to be part of the state. And there was a commissioner who ran the system. The commissioner answered to the governor and the executive council. That has changed in the past few years. Now, and many people don't realize this, the community college system is no longer a state agency. It's independent, and the only connection with the state, as far as I see, is the state gives a big chunk of money to it. They get millions from the state, and the board of trustees and the chancellor now call the shots. And in my long-term experience with working for the system, the matters have gone from bad to worse with this new setup, because the chancellor and his board of trustees seem to really not care about the people who do most of the teaching for their students. Adjuncts professors comprise about 3/4 of all their teachers, and they treat us like they don't really care whether we have enough money to buy food and rent, and we all seem expendable to them. But when I look at the values for my college, the the number one value for NHTI is excellence in teaching.
Could you just do that one more time?
The, according to NHTI's system of values, the number one value is excellence in teaching, which means, okay, we have excellent teachers. But if you're paying your teachers poverty level wages, you're not going to attract excellent teachers. If you're denying your teachers benefits, you're not going to attract the best. It's sad that they undervalue their teachers so much.
So, can you describe the way the system runs and how teachers and administrators are paid? So there might be adjuncts who don't know how the system is funded and.
Right. Let me break character for a moment. I think it's like 40% of their funding now comes from the state. But I'm not sure.
So maybe we should just talk more conceptually. The money, because the system takes public money, like they take capital project money, and they build up schools. And they take additional funding, general funding from the legislature, and they give some to students, and they pay employees, and this cycle continues. So they take that money, they pay employees, and then they pay adjuncts a very tiny amount, and then they pay themselves like this great, huge
The
salary.
administrators.
Mhm.
All right. I am raring to talk about the huge salary increases.
I know that, and that's part of the reason why I included this question, because we want to take you from the conception of how the university used to be, because I mean that's going to come out, right? There are other that was what Anne said. You know, how did we get this way? It happened so gradually. I barely even knew this. It was agreed. Was it this? Was it that? And I knew that was going to be a real sticking point for you because of your article. So let's just talk about the general conception. They take public money, which is just beyond me. They're not accountable for what they spend. They're not accountable to their employees, and they're barely accountable to the general public. They provide this service, right? Mm-hmm. But they're not accountable. They're not heavily scrutinized. Then they take what's left from the public money, and they pay the adjuncts a minuscule rate. And the students pay back into this, and they take whatever's left, give it to themselves. They don't really care. Like you said, they don't. And then they show that they don't care in their actions. They show that they don't really care what either happens to the quality of the teachers. Because if they did, like you had said previously, like 5 minutes ago, they would pay teachers more. They increase more recidivism with their teachers. They would probably have better academic performance from students, because there's a relationship you have to build, and money is a really important factor there. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I mean, if you're feeling that you're being treated like shit, you're not going to do the best teaching.
So let's just take it from how the system works. Your conception of how it works.
The system, the community college system of New Hampshire receives millions of dollars from the state to educate its citizens. It's a good arrangement. Unfortunately, with the system becoming independent, we've seen the salaries of the administrators of the system skyrocket. I look back, and in 2009, Chancellor, the former Chancellor, whose name escapes me, was making $149,000. Now, the current Chancellor is making $250,000, $100,000 increase. And this year alone, Chancellor Gittell received $36,000 raise to get to that 250 grand level. And 60 plus other administrators also got big raises. This was at a time when the legislature had cut its money, had cut millions from its budget, and in this lean time, they found a way to give themselves hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of raises just to the administration. Meanwhile, the people who actually do the teaching are getting paid very poorly and receiving no benefits. It's insane.
Is that okay?
No, it's not fair. It's not showing respect to the people who are educating their students. And if you have a group of educators who are feeling shafted and mistreated by the administration, you've got a bad environment that ultimately affects the students. And I've seen, in the past 3 years, I've seen many teachers come and go because they teach a semester and they say, well, this just isn't worth it. We're not getting paid well enough. There's no security. Most people can't live semester by semester not knowing what the future is going to bring. And up until this year, teachers who really hustled, who got 5 or 6 or more classes to teach, they could make an okay living. They could be okay meaning 25 grand a year, if you consider that okay. But now the system is saying, oh, you can only teach a maximum of 9 credits a semester, which isn't even a full load. So instead of making, say, 20,000 by teaching a full load, 4 or 5 classes a semester, you'll now be teaching only 3, and you'll only be making